The Supreme Court is known for its public merits docket, formal arguments, months of deliberation, and detailed opinions. These are the cases that make headlines, shape national debates, and are carefully scrutinized by legal scholars and the public alike. But there's a lesser-known process, the shadow docket. It operates mostly out of public view, in the quiet corridors of the court, away from the spotlight. Coined in 2015, the term refers to the court's handling of emergency applications and miscellaneous orders, decided quickly, with little briefing, no oral arguments, and often no explanation. These decisions can have immediate, far-reaching effects, yet they rarely receive the same attention as full docket cases. Historically, the shadow docket was for urgent procedural matters, like last-minute appeals to halt executions, not for sweeping policy changes. It was a tool for emergencies, not for rewriting the law. Orders were brief, unsigned, and rarely controversial. They were seen as routine, almost administrative, and seldom drew public scrutiny. Today, the process is starkly different. Parties file for emergency relief, responses are rushed, and the justices vote behind closed doors. The pace is faster, the stakes are higher, and the outcomes can be sweeping. The resulting orders can come at any hour, often without legal reasoning, leaving lower courts and the public guessing about the court's logic. This unpredictability can create confusion and uncertainty in the law. This lack of transparency is at the heart of the controversy. Critics argue it undermines trust in the judiciary and erodes the court's legitimacy. The shadow docket, once a minor tool, now hosts some of the court's most consequential and least explained rulings. Its influence has grown dramatically in recent years. Its rapid transformation raises urgent questions about the court's accountability and the rule of law. As the shadow docket expands, so too does the debate over how justice should be delivered in America. In 2025, the shadow docket exploded in use, drawing national attention and sparking intense debate. This surge happened under President Trump's second term, as his administration faced mounting legal challenges. In just 20 weeks, the administration filed 19 emergency applications, matching the Biden administration's total for 4 entire years. The court has sided with the administration in 20 out of 23 shadow docket cases, often overriding lower courts that found the policies likely illegal or unconstitutional. Many of these decisions came with no explanation, sweeping aside detailed lower court opinions with a single unsigned sentence or brief order. The shadow docket has shifted from a last resort to a fast track for controversial executive actions and urgent government requests. The Supreme Court now plays an active role in day-to-day policy battles, far beyond its traditional, more restrained function. Some of the most impactful shadow docket rulings in 2025 have dramatically expanded presidential power over federal agencies, shifting the balance of authority in ways that few could have predicted just a few years ago, and the civil service, fundamentally altering how the federal government operates on a day-to-day basis. In Trump versus Boyle, the court allowed the president to fire members of the Consumer Product Safety Commission without cause, erasing long-standing protections for agency independence and upending decades of precedent designed to insulate these agencies from political pressure. Similar unexplained orders in Trump versus Slaughter and other cases have let the president remove independent agency commissioners at will, making it easier for the executive branch to exert direct control over agencies that were once designed to be nonpartisan. These decisions signal a radical shift, turning watchdog agencies into extensions of the executive branch, and raising concerns about the future of regulatory oversight and accountability. The civil service has also been targeted. In Trump versus American Federation of Government Employees, the court cleared the way for a major workforce reduction, despite lower courts finding it likely illegal, opening the door to sweeping changes in federal employment. Other orders have allowed mass firings at the Department of Education, disrupting essential services and leaving entire departments understaffed, and weakened keyboards protecting workers' rights, undermining decades of labor protections and collective bargaining power. For millions of federal employees, these rulings have created instability and fear, as job security and the independence of their work are thrown into question. The shadow docket has become the main tool for consolidating executive power, often with no public explanation, leaving the public and even Congress in the dark about the reasoning behind these sweeping changes. The result, a historic weakening of checks on presidential authority and a government increasingly shaped by rapid, opaque decisions. The court's rapid, unexplained orders are reshaping the government by decree, leaving the future of American democracy and the separation of powers more uncertain than ever before. In 2025, the shadow docket has enabled swift, life-altering policy shifts in immigration and LGBTQ+ rights, often with little warning or public debate. These decisions, made without full hearings or detailed opinions, have reshaped the legal landscape almost overnight. In Noem versus Chupati Dododai, the court allowed the mass revocation of parole for 500,000 non-citizens, without individualized review or explanation. Families were left scrambling, unsure of their futures as the decision took effect immediately. Other orders have green-lit ethnic profiling in immigration enforcement and ended protections for Venezuelan refugees, overturning lower court pauses. These abrupt changes have left entire communities vulnerable, with little recourse or time to prepare. The shadow docket is now the main event, not a preliminary step. Its influence has grown, bypassing traditional checks and balances. LGBTQ+ rights have also been rolled back. In United States v. Schilling, the court let the military resume terminating transgender service members, reversing lower court protections with no reasoning. Service members who had built their lives and careers in the military suddenly face discharge, uncertainty, and discrimination. In Trump v. Orr, the court allowed the State Department to deny passports reflecting gender identity, directly impacting transgender Americans' ability to live authentically. For many, this means being forced to travel with documents that do not match their identity, risking harassment and danger. These unexplained orders have sanctioned major policy changes, affecting millions. The ripple effects are felt in families, workplaces, and communities across the country. The court's silence leaves the public and those affected in the dark, fueling confusion and fear about what rights may be lost next. The shadow docket is now a vehicle for sweeping, unaccountable decisions on fundamental rights, with little transparency or explanation for the public to understand. The consequences are immediate and deeply personal, changing the course of lives in an instant, and leaving many to wonder what the future holds. Federal judges across the country are alarmed by the Supreme Court's shadow docket reversals. Months of careful hearings and detailed opinions are swept aside by brief, unsigned orders, often with no explanation. This leaves lower courts guessing about the law and undermines the predictability that justice depends on. Judges feel their authority and the rule of law itself are threatened. They're left in an impossible position: uphold the Constitution and risk reversal without guidance, or try to anticipate the Supreme Court's unwritten rules. This isn't a partisan issue. Judges appointed by both parties are concerned. The lack of transparency exposes judges to criticism and even threats, as they're portrayed as rogue actors. If judicial rulings become optional, the entire system is at risk. When the highest court abandons explanation, it replaces law with raw power. Inside the Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has become the leading critic of the shadow docket's abuse. Joined by Justices Kagan and Sotomayor, she warns that the majority is making major law in secret, granting the executive a shortcut unavailable to ordinary litigants. In dissents, Jackson condemns the unchecked expansion of executive power and the lack of legal reasoning. Kagan and Sotomayor echo these concerns, arguing that the court is undermining agency independence and the separation of powers. The trio insists that monumental constitutional questions deserve full public deliberation, not rushed, unexplained orders. Jackson has modeled a better approach. In a recent emergency case, she issued a brief stay, but provided a written explanation and a strict time limit. Legal experts praise this transparency and restraint. The divide on the court is now about the very meaning of emergency justice. Some justices and commentators defend the shadow docket, calling it a necessary tool for managing urgent cases. They argue that the court is simply correcting lower court errors and preventing single judges from blocking national policy. Justice Barrett likens the justices to referees, not lawmakers. But this defense hasn't eased public concern. Lawmakers from both parties are pushing for more transparency, and the public sees a process that feels undemocratic and opaque. Major decisions are made in secret, eroding trust in the court's impartiality. When the court appears to play favorites behind closed doors, its legitimacy and that of the entire judiciary suffers. The shadow docket debate is about more than legal procedure. It's about democracy itself. The Supreme Court is supposed to be a check on power, not an enabler of it. When the court uses secret, expedited orders to consistently approve one branch's actions, it risks becoming partisan. Transparency is essential for public trust. Detailed opinions and open arguments legitimize the court's decisions. The shadow docket short-circuits this process, replacing reasoned deliberation with silent decrees. The stakes are high. Pending shadow docket cases involve foundational questions of governance. Rushed, secretive decisions undermine lower courts, create legal uncertainty, and erode faith in the system. The rule of law is a promise of fairness and transparency for all. The current use of the shadow docket threatens that promise, creating a two-track system of justice. To restore trust, the court must return to transparency, reasoned judgment, and judicial restraint, the true foundations of American justice.